It's
Good
my
luck.
turn.
Hopefully you make it out of losers.
Kouma is broken. I don't think I can do this.
Meet Kouma Kishima. He's Melty Blood Type Lumina's brawler grappler type character, and he's one of the best characters in the game. His toolkit, to keep things brief, is perfectly suited for the simple but powerful grounded play that a character of his archetype entails, which for some reason includes like 5 different invincible reversals. I don't know why he has all that. And most crucially, like all good grapplers, he also has some of the best Okizeme in the game. Because of course he does. Off his command grab, done raw or as a combo ender, he has your standard type Lumina left-rights that almost every character has in some capacity, but the strength of Kouma's Okizeme comes from his less conventional options, the first being his Rekka Oki. Properly executed, this is an unseeable, true high-low mix-up that can option select reversals on the low, be cancelled into Moondrive to beat certain reversals on the high, and he can always opt for just raw command grab to beat blocks and shield and loop the situation all over again. What makes Kouma's Rekka Oki so strong is how hard it forces uncomfortable guesses by being so punishing against the game's main defensive mechanic, shield. Kouma already has a pretty solid advantage against shield because of how strong the threat of command grab is, but his main mix-up option being high-low as opposed to the standard left-right makes shielding basically as good of a guess as blocking, but with much heftier consequences if you guess wrong, and only provides a heavily nerfed reward for being right. And when it comes to the other defensive mechanics, heat and Moondrive, Kouma being able to blow them up with great reward and very little commitment makes them equally high roll options that only serve to siphon your resources if you're wrong. Any amount of reward you may get from your defensive options is vastly outclassed by the monumental amounts of risk you take with any action you choose. Simply not dying is a worthwhile reward on its own when it comes to fighting Kouma. He can also just do this. This is Kouma's 22C, EX Godly Armor. Top Kouma player's other equally messed up choice for unfuckwithable Okizeme and more. For 1 bar of meter, Kouma can pop this move and gain 4 seconds of unlimited, fully actionable super armor, though it only lasts for 2.5 seconds if it hits the opponent. No matter how many hits you land, as long as Kouma is in that 4-second armor period, he is completely unfazed by normal attacks. Its additional frame 1 invincibility can make it serve as kind of a reversal, but its long startup time and super flash make it easy to shield and punish on reaction outside of the most high commitment options. When he has much less risky, equally strong reversal options, it's mostly a joke, but it is funny, I'll give it that. Back to the main point, the obvious applications of Kouma 22C are found in everything else that isn't defense, potentially in neutral if the match's pace allows for it, and on offense. Tell me if I'm crazy, but I think Honda should try popping raw 22C.
Yeah, no, that is a potential thing you can do because
if he can somehow pop this baby in neutral, Kouma's basically free to just run in afterwards. 4 seconds of super armor is a lot. Hell, even 2.5 is a lot. Most characters cap out at 0 seconds. The opponent is suddenly unable to play the poke game since Kouma can now just kinda run right through, with the response usually being to either just play the keep away game until he runs out, which can serve to be difficult, or just accepting fate and letting him run in and do Kouma things and praying, which allows him to transition perfectly from his neutral to his offense. Kouma's offense is good, even without armor. This is just a well-known fact, it's simple but incredibly effective. Putting 22C's armor on top of that just makes his offense better, and putting the opponent in the corner makes Kouma the scariest character in the game, be it his pressure or his Oki. For block strings, the easiest one Kouma can do for armor is just auto combo into 22A into 22C. This string is completely gapless and gives the full 4 seconds of armor, all while being 0 on block, which can lead to some really scary scrambles. The silver lining is, when used in a block string, 22C still gives the opponent room to use their defensive options with much less risk than on Wake Up. Heating on reaction to the EX Flash is pretty standard counterplay and a guaranteed out if you don't want to deal with that whole thing, though it is pretty expensive and can backfire if the Kouma really doesn't care. There's no real way for Kouma to punish Moondrive in this situation outside of not doing anything and making the opponent look like a fool. And he pushes himself out far enough that punishing low shield or going for a command grab requires some amount of effort. But the core of the string strength, you know, the armor, is still ever present if not immediately acted against. Now, if Kouma knocks down the opponent and then uses 2-2C, he doesn't have to worry about any of that. Okizeme. The current popular setup from a meterless command grab knockdown into armor is with 5A into 2-2C in order to frame kill the OTG that 2-2C would otherwise trigger. This situation leaves Kouma, armored, staring you right in the face as you get up. In my opinion, this is the scariest situation in all of Type Lumina. It is Kouma armor in its purest form. In Type Lumina, armor is only broken with throws, metered actions like EX moves and heat, and shield follow-ups. On Wake Up, as you would expect, you cannot reliably get away with any of these, or any of your defensive Wake Up options. But combined with a whole bunch of extra restrictions and threats unique to Kouma, this situation creates some of the most, if not the most, attacker-favored and front-loaded RPS in the entire game, as you are forced to act near immediately. Block, and you obviously are forced into holding offense, which is unironically the safest option you have. Shield a hit, and you have to deal with the normal RPS stuff that entails. But block or shield too much, and suddenly you have to deal with the command grab, which beats normal throws and lets him loop any of his strongest Okizeme setups if he were to land one. On top of that, Kouma doesn't even have to delay the command grab that much, since a proper 2-2C setup is just barely plus or 0. That command grab layer beats a whole lot. Just blocking, shield, Moondrive. Oh boy, Moondrive, what a terrible option. If you don't get thrown and punished out of the recovery as a callout, Moondrive is so biased against the defender here that there's not much that you can get out of using the resources on Moondrive that would benefit activating it over just sending an option and praying. To start, Moondrive versus 2-2C Oki doesn't give you much to look out for compared to, say, a left-right or a true high-low, since no matter what, he's just kind of in your face. And because Kouma can mess with his timings a lot more liberally due to being in armor, you'll only sometimes be able to gauge an action. It barely matters for your choice of action afterwards, since he's armored and Moondrive does have its 2-frame recovery. So even if he does nothing or something light like an A button, you can't do too much since you can just mash your command grab after the Moondrive activation to beat out most options, including some metered actions if he layers an option select behind it. Moondrive here mostly serves as another guaranteed point to RPS with shield or some kind of metered action as an attempt to break the armor, with the odds still being heavily not in the defender's favor unless the Kouma is visibly committed to an option. Now, if you want to fuzzy jump to beat the command grab, that is, delay your jump at a timing that allows you to also block an immediate attack, well, too bad. Even if you manage to jump the initial command grab, you're not out of the woods quite yet. Kouma is able to whiff his command grab both as A grab and slower B grab, and still have time to chase air escape attempts. So for the best chances, but not a very practical method of escaping with a jump, you have to commit to a super jump to cover a large amount of distance while saving on air actions, all while Kouma can still chase his way back to a favorable offensive position. And, no matter what, a fuzzy or immediate jump can be caught by medial strings and delayed buttons, so jumping of any kind is, in fact, another massive guess. The most egregious part of this whole thing is the obvious. The option that, even against something like Kouma's own Rekka Oki, can work as a Hail Mary, the humble mash and meterless reversal to beat out slightly more committal options in meaties, flat out don't work, as Kouma's armor tanks all normal hits. Mashes and reversals are probably the simplest ways to stop the opponent from overextending pressure, but the moment he turns orange, you cannot do either of these for 4 seconds! Which essentially removes one of the most important and fundamental layers of defense and forces equally, if not more, risky options until something happens within those 4 seconds. The armor factor also allows Kouma to adjust the timings of his attacks so much more than the average character without a fear of retaliation, giving him the ability to delay the initial hit to bait EXTPs, stagger super deep to better scout guard cancel heat, shield, or jump, and of course all the normal things such as just running up to command grab. So your main RPS triangle on Wake Up against Kouma in armor, in the corner specifically because you can just backdash mid-screen, if you don't want to block, is to shield, heat, or fuzzy jump in a way that doesn't get you killed on landing. All options that provide an insanely small reward for the amount of raw risk that they require you to take, and the massive consequences for being wrong. The insane option of reversal throw can work, I guess. but only if the stars happen to align or the Kouma player you're fighting forgets that they're playing fucking Kouma. If you don't have meter, then you can scratch any metered stuff off the list too, which makes your options so incredibly limited that it essentially becomes a coin flip. And remember, even if you survive the first interaction, you still have to deal with Kouma in armor for up to 4 seconds, meaning your options are almost just as restricted for that period of time. And at some point, you will be forced to make a defensive decision because one command grab is all it takes for Kouma to get the process started all over again. Kouma Kishima is one of the best characters in the game, one of the few meta placements that all major regions of the game actually agree on, and it's in no small part due to just how oppressive his Okizeme is. Rekka Oki, for its own reasons we briefly discussed at the beginning of the video, don't get me wrong, that shit is actually broken, but 22C is a whole demon on its own just due to how much it fundamentally warps the game while it's up. The way it forces continuous, restricted guesses over such a long period of time, while shutting down major avenues of basic defense, makes it feel like it forces too much interaction, while also being near uninteractable with how skewed its risk-reward really is, and just how many options are plain off the table. That's to say, that if you ever find yourself face to face against a Kouma that knows what they're doing, good luck. You'll need it. Thanks for watching.